everybody. I want to welcome everybody to the January 21st, 2020 Comprehensive Plan Amendment Review by the Board of Commissioners and the public hearing with regard to those matters. So with that, I believe, Jason, you're going to lead us through this program this morning. So with that, it's all
Yes,
yours.
sir. Good morning. I'm Jason Gaines, Cobb County Community Development. This is our annual Comprehensive Plan Amendment Review. The Planning Commission heard these items and has offered recommendations on each of them. That hearing occurred on the first Tuesday of this month. And now I'm just going to go through the procedures really quick just to kind of let people know how this process plays out. So today we'll be hearing two types of proposed comprehensive plan amendments. The first is a zoning decision, and the zoning decisions are based on rezoning applications that were approved by the Board of Commissioners where the approved zoning went contrary to the future land use designation. So we'll look at those items, and the board will have the opportunity to bring the land use plan and the approved zoning into alignment or leave it as is. The second type are commission proposals. Those items are those that are brought to us either directly by the commissioners or through the commissioners and the public to clean up areas on the future land use plan that are kind of out of alignment or out of sync. But before we get into the main part of our agenda, we have a request for item CP21, it's Commission Proposal 21, and Commissioner Ott would like to speak to that.
Thank you, Jason. Mr. Chairman, I know everybody's gotten all the emails, and there has been discussion previously in the community about before making major changes to an area. In the past, what the commission has done is had zonings. We do the ZDs, we did the master plan, we then changed the future land use map. There have been some in the community that said we needed to do the future land use map first because that's supposedly projecting what the county is going to do. But I will say that this is the second time I've tried to do it that way, and there is more of an uproar trying to do the future land use map first. And so I've talked to the community, and we're going to go do the master plan first. And I'm going to remind them that this is the second time when I've done it the way they've asked that it doesn't work, which is why we don't do it that way. So anyway, with that, I make a motion to withdraw CP 2-1.
Second.
Multiple seconds.
Come on, the
sorry,
emails have
multiple
been
seconds.
that bad.
Any discussion? Call the question. It passes 5-0. You can take your victory, Mr. Siphon. Your constituents should be happy this morning. The multitude of fans that you have apparently out there. Okay, Jason.
Okay, so before we get into the zoning decisions, I'll explain a little bit how we'll handle it. What we'll do is I'll read through each item. I'll read each item into the record along with the recommendation from the Planning Commission 2 weeks ago. And then if there is a desire amongst the commissioners to pull that item for discussion, or if there's anyone from the public that would like to speak to that item, we'll go ahead and pull it to the side. We'll read through the entire list in that manner, and all of those that are not pulled for discussion or public comment, you'll have the opportunity to vote on those in one motion. Then we'll go back and go through each item individually that was pulled and have discussion and or public hearing. And then you'll vote on those items individually. We'll do that for the zoning decisions initially, and then we'll get into the commission proposals and handle that in the same fashion. So with that, we'll get into the first item, ZD1, which was based on zoning case Z53 of 2018. The proposal is to go from neighborhood activity center to low-density residential. The location is the north side of Michael Drive, east of Brackett Street. This is located in Commission District 4. The Planning Commission's recommendation was for approval. Well, and this is when you ask if anybody wants to discuss amongst the board, and then you ask if there's anyone in the public that would like to speak to that item. You don't want to do that?
Do any of the commissioners have any, want to discuss any matters with regard to ZD1? Okay, there's your answer.
Okay. ZD2 is located in Commission District 1. It's based on case Z60 of 2018. The proposal is to go from neighborhood activity center to medium density residential. We're located on the east side of Kemp Ridge Road, south of Lake Ackworth Drive. The Planning Commission recommendation was for approval.
Any commissioners have any comment on ZD 2? Hearing none.
ZD3 is located in Commission District 2. It's based on case Z79 of 2018. Proposals to go from low-density residential to medium-density residential, located on the southeast side of Carson Lane and on the east side of Wheeler Road. The Planning Commission's recommendation was for approval.
Any comments from the board? Hearing none.
ZD4 is located in Commission District 4, based on case Z68 of 2018. The proposal is to go from medium-density residential and community activity center to high-density residential. We're located on the west side of Austell Road, on the northeast side of Milford Church Road. The Planning Commission's recommendation was for approval.
Any comments from the board? Hearing none.
ZD5 is located in Commission District 1, based on case Z84 of 2018. The proposal is to go from very low-density residential to neighborhood activity center located on the northeast corner of Dallas Highway and County Road. The Planning Commission's recommendation was for denial.
Any comments from the board? Hearing none.
ZD6 is
Hey,
located in...
Jason, 1 second.
Yes, sir.
So when I make the motion, are we going to have two separate motions, one for for approval and then one for denial to keep it clean?
It'll be one motion to basically accept the Planning Commission's recommendation
Okay,
for
all right.
each of the items
Okay.
that were not pulled.
That's fine.
So it's like a consent motion.
I just want to make sure that everybody understands what we're doing here. That's fine.
Chair, to that point, if we may, when you're asking for comments from the board, you're also asking for comments from the public, so we'd pull those for
Okay,
comments for those.
sure. Thanks for letting me know that. Remind me, Bill. Thank you.
ZD6 is located in Commission District 2, based on case Z6 of 2019. The proposal is to go from low-density residential to medium-density residential, located on the northwestern intersection of Spring Hill Road and Honeysuckle Lane. The Planning Commission's recommendation was for denial.
And I support that denial.
Okay. Any comments from the public? Okay, hearing none.
ZD7 is located in Commission District 3, based on case Z18 of 2019. The proposal is to go from neighborhood activity center to low-density residential, located on the south end of Hilltop Drive, north of Chance Drive. The Planning Commission's recommendation was for approval.
Okay. Any other comments from the board? Any comments from the public? Hearing none.
ZD8 is in Commission District 4, based on case Z78 of 2018. The proposal is to go from neighborhood activity center to medium-density residential, located on the east side of Sandtown Road, south of Windy Hill Road. Planning Commission's recommendation was for approval.
Comments from the board? Comments from the public? Hearing none.
ZD9 is also in Commission District 4, based on case Z22 of 2019. The proposed changes from neighborhood activity center to public institutional, located at the northeast intersection of Austell Road and Dorothy Road. Planning Commission's recommendation was denial.
Comments from the board? Comments from the public? Hearing none.
ZD10 is located in Commission District 4. Based on case Z80 of 2018, the proposed change is from community activity center to high-density residential, located on the northwest side of Old Bankhead Highway, the south side of Veterans Memorial Highway, east of Old Powder Springs Road. Planning Commission's recommendation was for approval.
Comments from the board? Comments from the public? Hearing none.
ZD11 is also in Commission District 4, based on case Z5 of 2019. The proposed changes from Parks, Recreation, and Conservation to very low-density residential, located on the west side of Holloman Road, south of Hiram Lithia Springs Road. Planning Commission's recommendation was for approval.
Comments from the board? Comments from the public? Hearing none?
ZD 12 is in Commission District 4. Based on case Z21 of 2019, proposed changes from medium-density residential to low-density residential, located on the west side of Elmwood Circle, north of Elmwood Drive. Planning Commission's recommendation was denial.
Comments from the board? Comments from the public? Hearing none?
ZD 13 is in Commission District 4. Based on case Z29 of 2019, the proposed change is from public institutional to neighborhood activity center and low-density residential, located on the west side of Floyd Road, south of White Boulevard. The Planning Commission's recommendation was for approval.
Comments from the board? Comments from the public? Hearing none?
ZD 14 is located in Commission District 1. Based on case Z35 of 2019, the proposed change is from rural residential to very low-density residential, located on the north side of Ivy Lane, west of Cobb Parkway. The Planning Commission's recommendation was for denial.
Comments from the board? Comments from the public? Hearing none?
ZD 15 is located in Commission District 1. Based on case Z46 of 2019, the proposed change is from low-density residential to neighborhood activity center, located on the north side of Morris Hill Church Road, west of Ackworth Due West Road. Planning Commission's recommendation was for denial.
Comments from the board? Comments from the public? Hearing none?
ZD 16 is in Commission District 2. Based on case Z51 of 2019, the proposed change is from medium-density residential to high-density residential, located on the southwest side of West Atlanta Road, west of West Village Drive. Planning Commission's recommendation was for denial.
And I support that.
Okay. Any other comments from the board? Comments from the public? Hearing none?
ZD 17 is located in Commission District 4. Based on case Z26 of 2019, the proposed change is from neighborhood activity center to medium-density residential, located on the southeast corner of Austell Road at the Silver Comet Trail, north of Says Road. Planning Commission's recommendation was for approval.
Comments from the board? Comments from the public? Hearing none?
Okay, sir, that concludes the list of zoning decisions. So now you have the opportunity to vote on those in one motion.
Okay, I make a motion that we approve the zoning decisions as recommended by the planning commission. Discussion? Call the question. Passes 5-0.
Okay. Now we'll move into the commission proposals portion of the agenda, and we'll conduct this portion of the hearing in the same manner. We'll read through each one, and then we'll pull for discussion and or public comment if there's a desire to do so. We'll start with CP 3-1. 3-1 is in Commission District 3. The proposal is to change from industrial compatible to medium density residential. This is a wide tract or large tract of land generally located south of Gresham Road and east of Wallace Road. The Planning Commission's recommendation was approval.
Comments from the board? Commissioner Gambrill?
My only question was, is it looks like the city has created an island around these parcels? Are we looking to address that somehow?
Well, the island, the law is basically it had to have been an island by a certain date. It doesn't matter what the city does after that date. If it wasn't an island by that date, then the city doesn't have the rights under the annexation rules that you get with islands. Right, Jason?
That's correct, sir.
Okay, thank you.
And you can see it's already MDR with the apartments there. It's at the end of Gresham Road. Yeah. So I support this.
Okay. All right, any other comments from the public? Hearing none?
Okay. CP 41, Commission District 4.
Hold
Yes,
on
sir.
1 second. One of these individually. Individually? Make it cleaner?
Sure, we can vote on them individually.
I'm hearing- I'm
That's your
hearing-
prerogative. And it's based on how this is set up, since this is a shorter list, we could reasonably do it that way.
What, okay, all right, so, Commissioner Ott, this is your district, right?
No, it's,
This was
it's
3-1.
Commissioner Burrow.
Motion to approve. CP 3-1.
Any discussion? Call the question.
Oh, impressive.
Okay. Now we'll move on to CP 41. Commission District 4, proposals to go from Community Activity Center to Neighborhood Activity Center and medium-density residential. It's a wide tract of land located generally north of Veterans Memorial Highway, west of Cooper Lake Road, and east and west of Beaver Drive. The Planning Commission's recommendation was for approval, but to eliminate the Neighborhood Activity Center portion of it and have the tract convert to medium-density residential in its entirety.
Okay, Commissioner Cupid, do you have a discussion on that?
Jason, I can't tell from this map, this is just CP 41, not CP 42.
Yes, this is just
Okay,
4-1.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
I'm supportive.
Okay, all right. Any other comments from the board? Comments from the public? And if you make a motion, please.
Yes, I move that we approve CP 4-1 per the Planning Commission's recommendation.
Okay, discussion? Call the question. Passes 5-0.
Okay. CP 42 is in the same general vicinity as the previous item. We're north of Veterans Memorial Highway and west of Cooper Lake Road. The proposals to move from Community Activity Center to Neighborhood Activity Center. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
Commissioner Cupid,
So moved.
okay. Discussion? One thing.
No.
Anybody from the public have a comment on 4-2? Okay, call the question. Passes 5-0.
Okay, CP 43, again, the same general vicinity. This time we're on the south side of Veterans Memorial Highway and east of Glore Drive. Proposed changes from Community Activity Center to Neighborhood Activity Center. Planning Commission's recommendation was approval.
Okay, Commissioner Cupid,
So moved.
okay, discussions and any comment from the public? Call the question. Passes 5-0.
Okay. CP 44, again, we're in the same general vicinity. This time we are south of Veterans Memorial Highway, north of Lee Road, and east of Garner Road. Proposed changes from Community Activity Center to medium-density residential. The Planning Commission's recommendation was approval.
Commissioner Cupid,
So moved.
any comments from the public? Call the question. Passes 5-0.
Okay. CP 45, again, same general vicinity. This time, we're south of Veterans Memorial Highway, north of Ridge Avenue, and west of Glore Drive. The proposed changes from Community Activity Center to medium-density residential. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
Commissioner Cupid,
So moved.
discussion? Comments from the public? Seeing none, call the question. Passes 5-0.
CP 46, we're located south of the Silver Comet Trail between Ewing and Sanders Roads, including both sides of Sanders Road and both sides of Angelette Drive. This site is located in priority industrial area, future land use category, and the proposed change is involving the subcategories. We're proposing a change from the industrial compatible and the industrial subcategories of PIA to the industrial compatible and community activity center subcategories of PIA, along with medium-density residential, taking one tract out of PIA entirely and putting it under medium-density residential. Complex proposal. We can talk about it if there's still any questions as to what we're doing here. The Planning Commission's recommendation for this item was denial.
So I'll let Commissioner Cupid make the motion, and then we'll have a second, then we'll have some discussion.
Yes, just for some clarification, Jason, when we discussed this, I thought the intent was to move that last parcel not into residential, but into an indoor, either commercial or industrial use. The intent is to have a step-down zoning between the residential and industrial. So when I saw this, I was a bit surprised because if we put residential there, it still doesn't provide a buffer between industrial and residential. What we're looking is a step down.
Let me move to that item on my list here. I have my book electronically here. And we're talking about the parcel at the far western edge of the tract, correct?
Yes.
Okay, that parcel is currently undeveloped and, you know, and correct me if I'm wrong, you or anyone here, I was of the understanding that that parcel was, or that tract was harder to develop because of wetlands and other low-lying areas. So, you know, as a residential use, it's probably not as viable because of that, but the idea was to, you know, as you put, try to provide some sort of buffering from any, you know, industrial or, you know, high-intensity use that might be, you know, problematic in terms of, you know, quality of life for those residents.
Yes. So, yes. So with that, you know, the proposal is not for this to become residential, but if there is any development of that parcel, for it to be an indoor industrial use, whether it be LI or commercial, or just a step down, again, from that residential. So I can't remember, again, what we proposed specifically, because I don't see it drafted, but it should not be as it is stated in the recommendation. So it could be a text amendment that if it were to develop industrially, that use would be indoors to create a buffer between residential and industrial uses.
Well, you know, just from my professional, you know, standpoint, you know, it may be kind of difficult for us to do that this way here. In fact, the Planning Commission's recommendation was for denial, but in addition to that, they mentioned specifically that this area should likely be studied in more in depth to try to come up with, you know, a more definitive plan for the long term for that area. So, you know, I don't know how we could structure that here in a way that, you know, everybody understands. It may be better for us to study it, you know, over the next couple of months or a couple of weeks, however long you'd be willing to give staff to do that.
Okay, I think there's a question on the board.
Commissioner Burrow.
Wouldn't that come with the zoning, if it comes through zoning? I'm just saying, if we're changing the use or whatever, I think it should stay what it is, to comparable to the others. There's residential on both sides.
Sure, right.
So, I would say denial, and then if it is developed, it has to come through zoning.
Correct. Right.
I also think too, Commissioner Cupid, that, you know, we publish what we're going to do and to all of a sudden write a text amendment today without the public having an opportunity to comment on what the thoughts are. I agree with Commissioner Burrow that this proposal should be denied. And if you want to put a text amendment, bring it back in a couple months after staff has had a chance to talk about it. You can sit down and kind of express your thoughts about what you're looking for with a text amendment. But I don't think that it's appropriate to all of a sudden throw a text amendment out there without the public having a chance to see it.
Okay. I don't mind pulling it for discussion. I think this protects the interests of the public, and it also recognizes that this is an industrial use. So I would ask, as opposed to deny, that we just continue it until we have time for that discussion.
So,
Yeah, so she
So
can
when-
make a substitute motion to continue it, right?
Shouldn't have a motion yet.
I know. Oh, I thought she had, all right, so,
I mean, this is very similar to zoning, that we still have the parcel in play, but we are discussing it with the community to determine the
Right,
outcome.
yeah, in the past, over the past couple of years,
We've
we've
done
had a few items where, they were continued beyond this hearing and we brought them back at a
Right,
later
without
time,
denying, yes.
3, 4, 5 months or so, yeah.
We
Well,
actually have so
and I
there's a
think Commissioner
community
Cooper-
meeting with respect to this on Wednesday, so this can certainly be part of that discussion, but
I also think, Commissioner Cupid, this is exactly the issue that I'm dealing with in District 2 right now, in some areas along Atlanta Road with certain businesses that are right up against residential that have been determined to be causing some issues in the community, without mentioning any names. But you don't want to go down that path, trust me. If you think the emails we got about CP 2-1 were a lot, just go down this path of putting residential next to industrial. So would strongly recommend, I don't have a problem with continuing it, but this proposal shouldn't move forward.
I agree that it would result in the same issue being continued. So my motion is that I do know that we're looking for response from the public with respect to this matter, but is my intent to have a motion to continue this.
not if we continue it. Okay, so you're gonna make a motion to continue?
Yes, I don't know procedurally if you have to have the public weigh in first.
I would suggest, Commissioner Cupid, if you're making a motion to continue it, you would still be under the public advertisement, which would not be the change that you're suggesting that you're already thinking that you would want to make.
Okay,
So there might, if you want to withdraw it and then you bring it back the way that it would be properly advertised for, it would be a better step.
okay, yes. I would like to follow that recommendation then. If, it's my understanding if we continue it, we still have to continue it as the proposed recommendation so that we do withdraw this and then come back.
A motion to withdraw, we have a motion, we have a second. Any other comment? And public, we have a comment from the public, yes, sir?
Thank you, and I appreciate the opportunity to come. My name is Lindsay Tippins, and I represent the owners of the property. The owners are opposed to this proposed change for several reasons. Foremost, the property, which is currently zoned, is under PIA, but it carries a heavy industrial zoning. And at the time I prepared this was being proposed to go to medium density residential in the future land use map. If you look at the documents that you have before you from page 92, the purpose of the priority industrial area is to preserve the industrial assets that the county has. And I realize with the changes that we may be talking about coming down and working toward some kind of solution, it may remain industrial. But one thing I would like to point out is that this particular property, after the Colonial Pipeline facility was built out on Ewing Road in the middle 60s, that entire area was zoned an industrial area. This is within a quarter of a mile of that petroleum storage area. And I think the commissioners did a blanket zoning, which was on both sides of the Seaboard Coastline Railroad. I don't know exactly how far back from the railroad it went. I think it was 800 feet. There's a lot been said about that. The industrial uses out there are non-compatible with the residential that's around it. But I'd point out that the residential was carved out of an overall industrial zoning area. an entire area. This was not a spot zoning that went to heavy industrial. Matter of fact, the subdivision just directly west of this is currently between two industrially zoned properties. And this had been zoned industrial for decades, literally, before these subdivisions were ever put in. I don't really have a problem with talking and trying to work toward a solution, but I will point out some challenges that that this particular piece of property faces. It has a petroleum pipeline that runs through the middle of it, an easement, of which there are 3 high-pressure pipelines in that easement. It's not exactly what you'd want to have in a medium-density residential or this. The point I'm making that is if you go to a light industrial and you have to have everything enclosed within a building within outside storage, the portion of land that's in the easement cannot be used for storage or parking or anything outside. Property also has some environmental challenges, as is most of Powder Springs does, because the soils around Powder Springs, a lot of them are very fluid, and you don't have the foundation that you can put real heavy load-bearing walls on. All that to be said, because this property was originally heavy industrial and has been since the inception of zoning laws in Cobb County, I'd ask that it remained in its current zoning. I'd be glad to work with the neighbors on trying to help address their concerns, but it reminds me of the people that got a great deal on a lot that was right next to a railroad track, and as soon as they built their house, they started complaining because the train whistles were too loud. So, it kind of goes with the turf. When you move in next to heavy industrial, you move in
Excuse me,
next to
Mr.
heavy
Tippins.
industrial. I'll leave it at that. I'll ask you to leave it as it is, because I think any diminished zoning or any diminished land use map would be detrimental to the property and would be an unconstitutional taking of the exercise of property rights, which we currently have under heavy industrial. And I'd ask you to take a close look at that. Thank you so much, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Senator.
Chairman, if I
Sure,
may.
absolutely.
Yes, I appreciate the comments, and I look forward to working with you. I just want to clarify that case law shows that even with the reduction in, or not a reduction, but with the change of land use, it's not considered a constitutional taking unless full economic value is reduced to 0. So I don't want to give the impression that by looking at how this is modified, that this constitutes a taking of property. This is certainly looking to preserve the health, safety, and welfare within the police powers of the board in our zoning capacity to make sure that there is protection of both the industrial and the residential property. I know I've talked to some residents. If you can look at the Brass Trail subdivision, I know that was developed later on, but there are some older communities that will argue differently and say that they were there prior to the industrial being brought there. And there's actually some roadways in there that have no truck through passing in that industrial area. And I think there's some, certainly as Jason pointed out, opportunity for discussion because there's just conflict with the preservation of the residential property that's there and in support of the industrial property that was prioritized through actions of this board prior to me being here. I think we could find a solution, but I think it's important for us to recognize there is a need for buffer between heavy industrial uses and residential uses, and that is within our capacity.
I look forward to the conversation. Thank you.
Commissioner Hart?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to clarify, Senator Tippins, that the motion that's on the table is not changing anything. If anything, it's acknowledging the fact that the board doesn't believe that what's being proposed in the book is appropriate. The discussion that you've mentioned and the Commissioner Cupid has mentioned, that's really kind of the discussion moving forward.
Yes.
It's not really
Right.
germane to the motion on the table today. The motion on the table today is acknowledging what I think everybody believes is that putting medium density residential next to industrial is not a good idea. And so it's not I just want to make sure you understand that the motion that the board is going to vote on is not changing anything with the property. It's not changing the zoning. It's not changing the land use. It's not putting any text amendments in place. It's basically just saying this isn't the right idea.
And I appreciate that. I just do want to clarify, after the discussions take place, if it will reappear on a subsequent, in a subsequent meeting.
Yes, it has to come back here.
Pardon?
It has to come back to the board.
Okay. Will there be additional notice, new
Yes.
notice
Sure,
sent?
absolutely.
Definitely,
Of course.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
absolutely, yes.
Thank you.
That's the way we work around here, Senator. Okay, is there any further discussion? Call the question. And passes 5-0. Withdraw, right, withdraw, right.
Withdraw, and just a note for there to be discussion for this to potentially come back within, I would say by April of 2020, Jason. Okay.
So will that be just a regular amendment, agenda item at a BOC?
It is at a zoning hearing, yeah. Okay,
Okay, our final commission proposal item is I'm sorry.
oh, yeah, that's reasonable, till May,
Okay,
sure, thank you for bringing that up.
okay. So we can push that out to me.
Okay, the final commission proposal item is CP 47, located in the vicinity of Discovery Boulevard, north of Mapleton Parkway. The proposed change again involves the priority industrial area and its subcategories. The proposed change is from the Parks, Recreation, and Conservation subcategory to the industrial compatible and industrial subcategories. Planning Commission's recommendation was approval.
Commissioner Cupid,
No comment.
okay,
In support.
from the public, so if you make a motion,
Yeah, so moved.
a discussion, call the question. Passes 5-0, is that all the business?
That is all of our business this
Okay.
morning, sir.
We're adjourned.
Jesus.
40 minutes, wow.